And Iran getting a nuclear weapon, not good. No one wants that. You can see how it's changed the geopolitical calculus when North Korea has a nuclear weapon. It makes us treat North Korea in a way that we otherwise would not treat it. We have to put more time, attention, detail, troops, intelligence. What otherwise would be a third world country, the fact they have a nuclear weapon, we have to take them far more seriously. The longer I live, the more I realize that puritanical, ideological approaches to situations like this are not helpful. On one side is the Lindsey Graham, John Bolton types, where they are actively calling for regime change. We want to go all in and take out the regime. It's time for us to close the chapter on the Iranian Ayatollah and his henchmen and start a new chapter in the Middle East. And that sounds good, doesn't it? But what have we learned when it comes to wars, and especially wars in the Middle East? What you draw up on a whiteboard rarely happens. What you think theoretically is going to occur, there might be unintended and unforeseen consequences, especially when you're talking about a country 2.5 times the size of Texas. It has 90 million people and was an ancient and great power with well over a dozen ethnic groups. Who's going to run the country exactly, Lindsey Graham? This sounds like Hillary Rodham Clinton in Libya. So I'm pointing to the first extreme right now, the neoconservative extreme. We must go take off the head of the snake right now. And Donald Trump is doing a phenomenal job of resisting these calls for regime change. He's playing around with it on Truth Social, as he should rhetorically. President Trump should rhetorically taunt and rhetorically threaten regime change. Absolutely, he should engage in information warfare. Yeah, the Ayatollah is awful, but maybe he's one of the few guys that can keep that country together and not have a 90 million person civil war. Iran is hugely diverse. It is a massive country. Typically in the Mideast, it's very messy, creates a quagmire, and then there is civil war. And then you have a major refugee concern of Mohammedans that will come to Europe and endanger more Christians and Jews, and Mohammedans that will come to America. No, that is wrong. So that is one extreme. The other extreme is one that I have deep respect and reverence for, because I actually think if we had that other extreme, we would not have invaded Iraq. This other extreme is philosophically important. It's important to consider, and that's the Ron Paul extreme. But the Ron Paul perspective is strictly isolationist. He would say, who cares if oil goes to $140 a barrel? That's not our role. We don't need to police the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't matter if Iran gets a nuclear weapon. Kind of fortress America, fortify it, and let the rest of the world do what it wants to do. Sounds good, but it doesn't work, as the American economy is actually largely dependent on intertwined global trade. You don't have to like it. It's the way it is. I honestly don't think the neoconservative extreme needs to be represented philosophically anymore. It's uninteresting to me. They've done a mess of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, the entire Middle East, Ukraine. We know what the neoconservatives believe. Let me tell you what President Trump has in front of him. And this is the stuff of which statesmen are made. A statesman is a man at the highest moment when you have the weight of the shoulders, like Churchill or Lincoln, of the world on your shoulders. You act with prudence and not on ideological fervor. So on one side, he's getting phone calls from Lindsey Graham. Mr. President, we need to invade Iran and liberate the mullahs. Wrong. Like, that's a non-starter. I'm sorry, George W. Bush, that was an administration ender for George W. Bush. And the more that we remind people about Iraq and Afghanistan, I actually think it allows us towards a healthy way of viewing what's happening in Iran. And then the other side, which is the online MAGA base, especially the younger MAGA base, is very against U.S. involvement in Iran. And I understand it. I share it. I get it. I totally understand it. We've known nothing but quagmire, lies, deception, intel agencies that have spied on Trump, intel agencies that lied about weapons of mass destruction, intel agencies that misled us about Libya, intel agencies that led us about almost every single corner of the region.
Everybody stopped. They were ready to make a deal. We would have made a deal that was great for everybody. No nuclear weapons. You can't give them nuclear weapons. Now they're going to have a nuclear weapon. But I wanted to make a deal with them. No nuclear weapons. You can't have nuclear weapons. Nuclear weapons are the single greatest threat to this world. I just didn't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. I said, you know, we're going to make a great deal. Everybody's going to be happy. You're going to be rich as hell again. Everything's going to be great. But you cannot have a nuclear weapon.
We have no idea how this is going to work out. But I encourage you, as you view the next couple of days, to not view things overly ideological. In fact, we should resist ideological fervor, saying, oh, take out the oil fields. No one wants poverty for the Iranian people. You take out the oil fields, get ready for $180 a barrel gas, a lot of Iranians starting to starve, and potentially an Iranian civil war. Take out the Ayatollah. Resist that temptation. That's not prudence. That's not self-control. And that very same zeal got us involved in a pile of garbage in Iraq. It all felt good with shock and awe in March of 2003. We're unstoppable. We're going to take Iraq in a weekend. Turns out, it didn't work that way. A lot of people died. A lot of Americans died unnecessarily. And so President Donald Trump finds himself in the decision-making chair. President Donald Trump, 10 years ago, said two things. And he ran on it, not just recently, but he ran on it for a decade. And both these things can simultaneously be true only thanks to the realpolitik approach of President Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda, a book that I wrote. These two things he said 10 years ago. Iraq war was a bloody catastrophe and a disaster, and it will never happen again, and Iran cannot get a nuclear weapon. Only President Donald Trump can hold both those things in his hands. Only President Trump, with prudence and practicality and wisdom, is able to weigh them both, thread the needle, and walk the tightrope. President Donald Trump is a man made for this moment, and we should trust him.